Hi Virgo, welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your November 2021 tarot reading. Thank you to those of you who've liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. And for those of you new to the channel, as far as what we have in front of us, it's a Celtic cross spread as always, and also put an Oracle card and a Mudra card for you guys. But we're actually going to start the reading off by rolling those astrology dice we have in front of us to get an idea of where your focus will be as far as that goes. So let's see what we get. Alright, so we have 3, so your third house communication, that's Scorpio for you guys. There's going to be tons of energy in there. We're going to have the sun there. Obviously, there's going to be a new moon there. Mercury's going to be there most of the month. Mars is going to be there the entire month as well. All right, we have Aries, so that's actually your 8th house of death, rebirth, intimacy, investments, taxes. But yeah, at the time of recording this, we're about to have that full moon in Aries, so could definitely be some residual effect from that when you guys hit November. And we have Pluto. Pluto's actually in Capricorn, which is your 5th house of romance, creativity, children. And when we have the full moon in Taurus, it's actually going to be trine Pluto, so could be some significance around that too. All right, so with all that out of the way, we'll get started. In the main situation position, we have the Queen of Cups. So this is actually the court card for Cancer, which you guys is your 11th house. That's friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes. So this could just be pointing to something that you guys have been working on. Could be something that has some emotional significance to you guys, and I feel like you're right there. Like if we look at the artwork, she's right on the edge of that water, but not quite in it, right? So it could just be saying it's one of those things that you're getting close to being at the completion point, but not quite. And I feel like this is something you've probably been working on for quite some time, given that we see the cup is closed off, and it's a pretty elaborate looking cup as well, right? So I feel like this is something that you have a lot of value for. Try to see what else comes to mind with this. And yeah, it could be plenty of things, it could be evaluating your values that you grew up with, right? Seeing what fits, what doesn't, maybe even restructuring them in a way that fits your life a little bit better, things along those lines. But yeah, it looks like it's something that you've been working on for quite some time, but you're not quite ready to bring it out into the open yet. All right, and the challenge or obstacle position, we have the Hangman. So this is, usually I view this as Pisces energy. So for some of you, it can be possibly looking at how you deal in your one-to-one relationships. But regardless of what area of life this is hitting for you guys, I feel like more than anything, this is saying that for this to come up in the challenge position, it could just be saying that you might be struggling a little bit to see things from different perspectives, right? So before you're ready to bring it out, I feel like you're really trying to look at things from every angle, and you might be coming up across a couple of roadblocks on the path to doing so. But if that's the case, I will say, especially when we have that Scorpio new moon, which is in your 3rd house communication, it's going to be opposite Uranus in your 9th house. So that could definitely bring some sudden insights. Maybe it's a certain conversation or just some information that crosses your path that might help things click for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. All right, in the foundation position, we have the Hierophant, Taurus energy, and the 5 of Cups, Scorpio energy. So yeah, again, I'm kind of getting the feeling of values here. Even though, like we just mentioned, this being 9th house energy, you can be seeing things from a higher perspective, reevaluating philosophy, higher learning. So yeah, it could just be an integration thing, right? Like I said, maybe you're looking at what you grew up with versus what you've learned along the way and trying to figure out what fits, what doesn't, things along those lines. With the 5 of Cups coming up here, it could just be saying that, for one, this represents the first 10 degrees of Scorpio, so for some of you, this could be an energy that you're feeling most prominently as we actually wrap up October and move into November. But more importantly, this could just be saying that maybe there's some reflection on what was said, what wasn't said, right? Especially for you guys. Scorpio is your 3rd house communication, and we also saw that come up with the dice too. So there could just be some reflection there, right? Maybe you passed up on some opportunities, for example, to connect with people because maybe you had some other things that you were working on. Maybe whatever that Queen of Cups situation is, right? So maybe you're looking back on, okay, what could I have done differently, right? Could I have communicated more clearly? Things along those lines. And it could have just been the retrograde that we've been experiencing that made you look in that area as well. even though that was in your second house. But yeah, you could have just been reevaluating how you communicate with others in that dynamic. Let me see what else comes to mind with this. And yeah, I would say with this energy popping up here, given what I mentioned about that new moon in Scorpio, be on the lookout for that. And if not, then keep in mind we're also going to have that full moon in Taurus later on in Scorpio season, which will actually be trying Pluto, which we talked about came up in your dice too. So definitely watch out for your lunar cycles this month, because there could be some sudden insights that come through during those times. All right. Past position, we have the Nine of Wands, so Sagittarius energy here. So yeah, again, this is going back to your roots in that regard. And we have had the South Node traveling through there. It's almost done with that transit too, so that could be part of what's bringing this stuff up for you as well. You know, reevaluating the values that you grew up with, what works, what doesn't, right? Where have they helped you, where have they hurt you, things along those lines. I'm just reflecting back on them. For some of you, this could just be, maybe there's just been an overwhelming energy within your home environment in general too, you know, so maybe that could be part of it. Doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, going back to roots. Maybe it's just in your day-to-day environment where you live. There could just be a lot of challenges at this time. But yeah, that's what I see there. All right, in the present position, we have the Knight of Wands, Sagittarius energy, Justice, Libra energy, and the Queen of Pentacles, Capricorn energy. So, seeing these energies here, I feel like there might be that combination of where, okay, maybe you're getting some ideas around a certain situation, right? And wanting to move toward taking action on them, but you're running them through that filter, right? To say, okay, well, how can I take these ideas of mine that I have and actually turn them into something practical, something tangible? And of course, as we go from Sagittarius season after that, the next season would be Capricorn season. So this could even just be saying that you're making plans around that time as well. You know, maybe you're coming up with a plan like, okay, if I start acting on this toward the end of October, for example, which would be, toward the end of November, which would be Sagittarius season, I could get it wrapped up by Capricorn season. So it could just be one of those things where you're trying to think of how best to attack something. It can definitely be related to finances too, given that for you guys, Libra energy is your second house of finances, possessions. So for you guys, that could have been what the retrograde was about, right? Taking these ideas you might have, for example, that Queen of Cups energy we were talking about could relate to some kind of creative project you might have been working on, saying like, okay, I have the idea, I'm ready to take action on it, but how can I filter that to actually turn it into something practical, something tangible? Whereas the Knight of Wands energy could be a bit more inconsistent compared to the Queen of Pentacles. All right, in the near future position, we have the Two of Wands, Aries energy, and the Page of Wands. So here we see the Aries energy, which also came up in your dice. Like I said, might be as soon as that full moon in Aries that you might get some insights around a certain situation. But either way, looks like you guys are ready to take action. Looks like you're lightening your load too, right? I mean, we see the Nine of Wands there. It doesn't look very comfortable. Knight of Wands looks definitely more free-flowing, for sure. But then with the Page of Wands, I mean, if you look at their environments, in some ways they look similar, right? But I feel like the thought that came to mind, the term that came to mind with this is traveling lightly, right? So whatever this is, whatever burdens you might have been carrying for a while, looks like you're letting some of them go, expanding your horizons. Maybe for some of you, this quite frankly is just long distance travel that you're planning at this time. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing there. Definitely looks like an energy of attempting to have a fresh start and actually being the one to take action toward that as well. All right, in the position of your influence in the situation, we have the Knight of Cups. So this is an energy, again, of taking action like we saw there, but with a bit more of an emotional tint to it, right? So with this Queen of Cups energy, on the one hand, you could look at it as the Knight of Cups is taking a step back, but at the same time, in a certain way, it might represent a bit more vulnerability too, right? Because for one, we see the cup is open here, and we see the person actually taking action toward it, as opposed to this person here is just sitting on the edge right by the water, right? If we think of the water representing emotions, but not quite immersing themselves in it, whereas this person's heading right toward the water. So Given that this is Pisces energy, this could certainly be around a romantic relationship that maybe you're making an offer to someone with that. But seventh house could represent partnerships of all kinds. So, like I said, if this is some kind of creative project you're working on, this could represent you guys possibly stepping forward to let people know what you're working on and seeing if they want to collaborate with you on that, or just presenting it in general if it's more of a solo journey. All right, in the environment position, we have the Eight of Cups, Pisces energy, and Knight of Pentacles, Virgo energy. So yeah, again, it's interesting to see, like I was talking about with the Knight of Wands moving toward the Queen of Pentacles, right? Filtering things through your mind to see, okay, well, how can I turn an idea that I want to take action on into something practical? Here it could be something similar, right? Where like, okay, well, how can I take these things that I have an emotional tie to and also convert them into something practical? But I do have to say, if this is around a romantic offer, what's interesting with this is I feel like there could be the way you're perceiving yourself and the way another is perceiving you. So there's a couple of ways I could see that playing out. For example, this is actually the court card that represents you guys. So we have that Queen of Cups energy, right? The struggle to see things from a different perspective with that Hangman energy, the desire to take action now. And it could just be like perception versus reality, to where you might feel like when you're coming forward that you're being very open, very vulnerable, very emotional, right? And then this person might view you as very closed off, right? Um, so just one of those things. Or the irony could be at one point, you might have been emotionally closed off, right? And now you're possibly, and you were the one who was more focused on the practical back then. And now you're more open emotionally. This person seems to be closing off more emotionally and moving more toward the practical. So it could just be one of those things like two ships passing in the night in that regard, you know? But I mean, it could just be, it doesn't necessarily have to point to doom and gloom. It could just be saying that there could be a bit of a struggle for the two of you to be on the same page at the same time. Let me see what else comes to mind with this. And yeah, and again, it could just be one of these things too, where in general, if this is representing just your energy, since that is your card after all, it could just be saying that you're looking for things that, yes, you want to have some emotional connection to them, but now you're filtering them through your mind to see, okay, but do they actually make sense in the practical world? If not, maybe I'll keep exploring and looking for something else, right? All right, in the hopes or fears position, we have Temperance. So this is actually Sagittarius energy again. And yeah, I'm getting that same feeling again, which is to say, I feel like this is you guys going through this point where you're looking at maybe beliefs that you had growing up, beliefs you've had through this point of your life just through your own experiences, and filtering what works, what doesn't, right? If we look at those two cups, that's how I kind of picture it. It's like filtering through, like, okay, what works, what doesn't work. What do I want to take with me? What do I want to leave behind, right? And just kind of purifying all that stuff. There could be some assistance coming through with that, from behind the scenes. I always think of that with the angel symbolism. And like I said, this could just be all wrapping up that transit of the South Node through Sagittarius. So, you might be feeling that energy come up to the surface because of that. And of course, this could be pointing to a timeline too, which is to say that as we move more toward Sagittarius season, you'll feel that integration. All right, and in the outcome position, we have the Sun. So whatever the bumpy road may be, it looks like at the end of it all, you will end up being happy, fulfilled, feeling more vibrant, more playful as well. And now I do have to say, for some of you, that could even be what the disconnect was, right? Like I was talking about with the perception versus reality. So just to go back to what we were talking about earlier with the Queen of Cups with the closed off cup, right? So maybe you don't see yourself that way, right? Maybe you see yourself as the Knight of Cups. Oh no, I'm totally open and emotionally. I'm totally open and vulnerable when it comes to emotions, right? But that Hangman and the Challenge could be saying, okay, maybe that's the struggle, that you're not seeing yourselves as actually you'll come to the edge, right near getting into emotions, but you're at the same time closed off with that closed off cup, right? So it could just be saying that could have been a bit of a struggle for you. and a bit of a blockage. And then there's also the fact that if we look here, we have the Knight. They're taking action, but they also have that armor on, right? A very guarded energy. Even this Knight still has armor on. The Knight of Pentacles has armor on, right? And here we see quite the opposite. The child is also on a horse, but there's no armor, right? Completely vulnerable, but yet still bright, still having faith, right? So that could be what the Hierophant is pointing to there as well, to have faith that you can open up. And then same thing with the Six of Wands. We see another figure on a horse, but they also don't have all the armor on. So it could just be as simple as that, right? Like maybe your perception of a level of vulnerability might be very different from those of the people in your environment. And maybe that's been a bit of a struggle for you, right? Like I said, maybe you can look back on your early upbringing, what might have caused that to take place. And it could be a matter of you guys shedding those layers. And like I said, maybe you find that some of it does work for you. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm a little bit guarded in this area, but I actually like that about myself, right? Oh, yeah, I'm guarded here. I don't like that about myself. So you could just be going through, like I said, filtering what works, what doesn't, as you get ready to move forward. So hopefully that didn't get too confusing. It seemed like it made a lot of sense in my head, and I kind of lost track of what I was even saying, but yeah, hopefully somebody got something out of that. Moving on to your oracle cards, we have To Be Fair. There's the artwork, and the number is 38. All right. It says balance, justice, a need to consider options, mutual benefit, the law of cause and effect. The Oracle's message: life offers experiences that are challenging and experiences that are nourishing, yet over time they strike a balance. You move from being, from stasis, to doing, from discovering, to loving, to letting go, to being again. Life is a pendulum swinging between all of these states. You will always oscillate back and forth between doing and being. If you are not content with where you are at this moment, remember that all experiences have their place. Accept them without judgment, and you will see how the universe adjusts in perfect balance. You reap what you sow. For every cause, there is an effect. Wondrous things will be revealed now. So definitely a pretty positive message there. Hopefully that resonated with you. And then the relationship message says, can you find a way to achieve fairness right now? This is a time for listening as well as speaking, for understanding as well as asking to be understood. There is much to be learned, and you will learn if you remain open and objective, weighing options and considering all sides. Your heart wants to connect to others, so allow for a balanced exchange of ideas and actions. The best kind of relationship is one in which there is mutual benefit and each party feels heard, valued, and respected. Be fair to all. So definitely a pretty positive message there too. And like I said, for some of you, it could just be, if you feel like there's a disconnect, it could just be one of those things where you're perceiving yourself as a certain level of vulnerability and openness, whereas the other person might not feel that way. Or like I said, it could be the other way around where they were open with you at one point, and now they're like, all right, well, I'm a bit closed off and going to focus more on the practical, whereas that might have been where you were in the past, and now you're open and they're, so it could just be one of those things where the energies just aren't lining up in this moment. So could be cleared up with some communication. And like we said, the third house communication did come up in your dice, and there's going to be tons of energy in your third house communication, so that should help with that. The prosperity message says, now is the time for even exchanges. Justice will prevail, and you will be treated accordingly. In all your affairs, you will be able to negotiate fair settlements. Mutual gain is the gift to you and your partners and colleagues. This is also a good time to square your finances and take stock of how you're compensated for your work. This card signifies balance, justice, and negotiations, so remember that all things must be fairly recompensed. Keep this as your truth, and so it will be. So definitely a pretty positive message there too, and that makes me think of the Knight of Wands with the Justice card and the Queen of Pentacles, so hopefully that resonated with you too. And lastly, we have a Mudra for you. So this is your Mudra for the month. It's the Kapittha Mudra. Keyword for it is creativity. All right, and there's the info on it if you want to pause it or take a screenshot to read what it has to say. But under benefits, it says can be used as a tool for sexual healing, releasing guilt and shame around sexuality, increases sensitivity and receptivity, stimulates healthy libido, opens the connection between the pelvis and heart, expands feelings of devotion and love and kindness. So hope that sounds like a Mudra you think would be beneficial for you guys. I will put the name of it in the description of the video as always. We'll wrap up there, and I'll see you guys next month. All right, bye.